Hey guys, Jordan with the Young Turks and TYT Politics. I am coming to you from Alpine, Texas. This is West Texas. It's a real beautiful area, a lot of beautiful mountains, desert, and very different than where I'm used to being. But Alpine, Texas is just one area in Texas where the Trans-Pecos pipeline is being routed through. The Trans-Pecos pipeline, by the way, when you read it, it looks like it's Trans-Pecos, but it's actually pronounced Pecos. The Trans-Pecos pipeline is going from Texas, and it's going pretty much underground into Mexico. The thing about the Trans-Pecos pipeline that's so interesting and I think egregious, this is all private land. There's no Army Corps land like you saw on Standing Rock. It's all private land, private ranch owners, landowners that have their land basically seized via eminent domain. Eminent domain is supposed to be for public use. Highways are often built and go through people's land for the public use of the citizens and the state and the nation. This pipeline is going from Texas into Mexico. Once the natural gas, it's a natural gas pipeline, gets to Mexico, it's going to be liquefied there and then shipped abroad to markets like Asia. So what is the public good? What is the public use for a pipeline to go through people's homes, people's land to Mexico, and then for it to be sold to foreign markets? Now, the state government here in Texas, the Energy Transfer Partners, which is the company behind the pipeline. Again, Energy Transfer Partners is the company involved with the Dakota Access Pipeline. So they're the evil company involved in this one too. They say this is going to create jobs. This is going to create tax revenue because there's taxes the company has to pay on the pipeline every year. But of course, that itself is kind of a con job. They say it's going to create 800 jobs. That's not true. The jobs that are created are mostly in building the pipeline. They're not jobs that continue on once the pipeline's built, just like you see in the Dakota Access Pipeline. Also, the tax revenue that comes per year from the company that has to pay for it, it's not like the landowners are having their land seized get a check for the tax revenue. It goes to the government, which then could use it however they want. So imagine if you work all your life, you play by the rules, you work hard, and the American dream, which is becoming more and more of an actual dream, is to buy a home. You buy a home, a small home, a big home, whatever your situation, a ranch, and all of a sudden you get a letter in the mail, we're going to be putting a pipeline through there and you don't have a choice, you don't have a say in the matter. And they start building. A woman I'm going to today, the pipeline is literally 400 yards from her home. So if that pipeline leaks, God forbid that pipeline explodes, what happens to your home? What happens to your land? Of course, if you own a home, part of owning a home, you might want to sell it one day. Your home value is very important. So depreciation, against your will, your land is going to depreciate because not many people, shopping around for land in Texas or other areas are really interested in buying a home with pipeline under it because pipelines typically break. So I think another aspect that's very interesting here, there's two aspects. Both are on the governmental end. One is corruption and one is hypocrisy. So let's start with the hypocrisy. So basically, this is a conservative area. Texas, one of the most conservative states in the country. Rick Perry, former presidential candidate, was a governor here for 2 terms. The current governor is Greg Abbott. Well, guess who has funded Rick Perry? Guess who has funded Greg Abbott for decades? That's right, Kelsey Warren and Energy Transfer Partners, the parent company of the pipeline. Rick Perry has gotten upwards of $6 million from Kelsey Warren and his company, Energy Transfer Partners, in his political career. Greg Abbott, the current governor, was literally appointed to a board. Greg Abbott appointed Kelsey Warren to a board last year. So there is just institutionalized government scratches the oil company's back, oil company pays for the governors. That's not unique to Texas. Obviously, we're seeing this toxicity of money in politics all over the country. But in Texas, oil and gas, I mean, this is oil and gas country, basically. So the oil and gas companies, you don't really need permits for these pipelines. There's very little regulation for these pipelines. The railroad commission actually oversees the pipeline. Basically, the only the regulatory authority they have on the pipeline is inspection after it's in the ground. So there was also no environmental impact study done here, as you saw in the Dakota Access Pipeline, because what they do, environmental impact study are for large pipeline projects. So what these companies are doing are basically trying to break up one long pipeline and make it seem like it's several different pipelines. That's what they did in North Dakota. That's what they're doing here. So the hypocrisy isn't part of being conservative Republican governors about don't tread on me, maximum freedom, super duper freedom we want? We're anti-big government. The government needs to get out of our lives, out of our wallet, out of our bedrooms. Government, we want to, some of the most conservative people, they want to squeeze the government so it can drain down to the size that it would drain down the bathtub. Well, isn't it kind of the definition of big government, going into taking people's land, building a pipeline through there against their will? That doesn't sound like small government to you. Does it sound like small government to you? So you have corruption, the Texas governor here and his predecessors basically letting companies like Energy Transfer Partners do whatever the hell they want. And you have hypocrisy. So the governor here, Texas pipeline CEOs, they care. They say small government. They want small government when it's good for them. But when big government and seizing people's land against their will, then small government goes out the window and forget being conservative. So this is what I would call a con job. This is literally this is a pipeline that's going to enrich Energy Transfer Partners, and they are literally seizing people's homes, people's ranches, people's land, people who, mostly older people who have worked all their lives to get this property, and now are having pipelines going through it. Visible construction that you could hear as you're trying to go about your day. Devaluing your property. Also, this pipeline is going through the Big Bend region. So the Big Bend region is one of the more beautiful regions in all of America. The Big Bend National Park, beautiful monuments and land that people come to. Tourists from all over the country come here. It's going not directly through the park, but it's in that region. So in North Dakota, obviously different aspects. You had people's sacred land being dug up. You had the environmental risk. This is a little different. It's showing that these pipeline companies, aided by the government, who they're paying off, because obviously money in politics rules everything. What I'm seeing here is there's a coalition forming. You have progressives, you have Native Americans, you have non-Native Americans, you have conservative landowners. They're all against these pipelines for different reasons. Obviously, some are environmental, some are property rights. And another thing here, and you see it, good old conservative values, Cenk has said it often. I think conservative ideology, a big part of that is if something doesn't affect you, tough luck for those people. But when people are personally affected by something, that's when they start seeing the light. And you're seeing that here. There's a lot of more conservative individuals, including someone I spoke to yesterday, that are kind of reevaluating those conservative values. Are they turning into hippy-dippy liberals? No. But they're having to question their ideology for their whole life, because the bottom line is this is big government, and these are the people that they vote for, the Rick Perrys, the Greg Abbotts. They usually are pro-gas and oil and for fracking and things like that. But now their land is literally being stolen from them, essentially. They don't have a choice in the matter. All they could do is get, a woman I'm going to today, a woman I might be going to tomorrow got $17,000 from the company. Others have gotten more, others have gotten less. So there's about 39 families that Energy Transfer Partners is actually suing, because the families are trying to fight losing their land. The problem is their day in court might not be for 2 years. This pipeline's supposed to be flowing in February. Greasers is right. It's all corporate profit. there's not a case that can be made that this is for public use. The tax revenue, the jobs are not enough to be digging pipelines through people's backyards. So I'm going to be doing more reporting here. There's already two videos up on youtube.com/tytpolitics. If you're not subscribed, get the hell out of here. youtube.com/tytpolitics. I spoke with Coyne Gibson yesterday. He's with the Big Bend Conservation Alliance, has been on the ground here for a long time. And if I'm being honest with you, because I always keep it real, there's not as much of a fight. There's not as much as a fight going on here as there is in North Dakota. A lot of these landowners and people here are kind of resigned to the fact that they have lost. There's not a big chance that anything will change here because, again, this is not federal land. This is all private land, and the Texas governor and the state government here is basically letting the company do whatever they want. They're not going to intercept. They're not going to interject if they're citizens, because they don't represent the citizens. They represent the oil company. That's the truth. So, of course, I'm not naturally, someone who sympathizes so much with conservative values, but it is very interesting to see people who their whole lives have been conservative now being screwed by the people who are supposedly have always been there for them. The Texas people who vote Republican all the time, the Texas people who are big for oil and gas. They're now getting a different perspective because they are personally affected. So go check out my interview with Coyne. I also interviewed David Keller. He's an archaeologist, very, very involved with what's going on, how this affects the Big Bend region and other areas. Interviewed him yesterday. That should be up. And I'm going to go to another landowner this afternoon to interview her. Then I'm going to Austin, Texas. I'll be going to Austin, Texas. It's a 6-hour drive from here, so I'll be driving tomorrow, staying over in Austin, and then interviewing on Wednesday a former oil and gas lawyer. And the reason I'm driving so far to interview this guy is because he is a de facto whistleblower. He knows the oil and gas industry better than anyone because he was a lawyer for it for decades. And he's against the pipeline. For the same reasons I'm telling you, there is no public use here, and they are literally stealing land from property owners. So whether we're progressive, conservative, the bottom line is, this is a con job. This is not for public use or the benefit of the nation. This is to enrich Kelsey Warren and Energy Transfer Partners. And by the way, there's a media angle here too. Go check if you've seen a story in the New York Times about this, the Trans-Pecos pipeline. Want to know why? Because when it goes into when it goes into Mexico, Carlos Slim, who's one of the world's richest men, he's a multi-billionaire. His oil company oversees it in Texas. He's the biggest shareholder in the New York Times. Google it. Carlos Slim. He's the biggest shareholder in the New York Times, and the New York Times has not done anything on this. I wonder why. So it's going from Texas into Mexico. Carlos Slim's company has jurisdiction over it there, then off to Asia and other markets, so that we could help give natural gas to other countries. But this is not for any domestic use. So that's the con job. That's the latest. Also, real quickly, Standing Rock. I've tried to keep up with it as best as I can. Several water protectors. I interviewed one of them last week. Her name's Kelly Love. She was arrested along with a few others in August. So one of the earliest people arrested. They saw their day in court today. Like Amy Goodman and others, their charges were originally like trespassing or something like that. Nonsense charges. And they they have then added on all these other charges, which are ridiculous, that don't even make any sense. They went to court today, but there was a continuance. So there will be a jury trial. It will be in Bismarck. It'll be in the beginning of next year, but the judge ordered a continuance today, so there's no trial today, and the jury will be selected, I believe, in the beginning of next year. But we need to keep the awareness on that there's still people, separate from the pipeline, that were charged unlawfully and, frankly, illegally in North Dakota. Go watch that video, youtube.com/tytpolitics. It was a couple days ago. Got to go talk to this landowner. So thank you for watching. Again, we got some videos up from the Texas pipeline, and we will do our best to get future videos up as fast as I can. Thanks.